I'm taking you inside one of the most terrifying nights of my life. A night when everything I thought I knew about safety, home, and control disappeared in the blink of an eye. I usually worked until 8 on Tuesdays, but that night was quiet, no appointments, so I left early. I planned to stay in, but then, on a sudden impulse, donuts, for a meeting the next morning. It was just going to be a 20-minute trip. On my drive home, my mind was entirely consumed with what donut I would eat that night and which one I would save for the morning. I pulled into the garage, noticing that I thought was the closed door into the house, rather than just the screen door as I had left it. Well, I opened up the screen door and my dog Buckeye ran out, and immediately I froze. Smoke. Thick, curling smoke. Not the soft white mist of a foggy night. This was a smell like I had never smelled before. Instinctively, I dropped my phone, dropped the donuts, my water bottle. Flames shot through the kitchen, and for a terrifying second I thought, maybe I could fight it. Turn on the water. Nothing came out. Dumped the soaking pot of water I had in the sink, but that handle was so hot it instantly burnt my hand and dropped it in a panic. I had a fire extinguisher under the sink. I reached around in the darkness to reach for it. I emptied that in a second, didn't even put a dent in the fire. That fire wasn't small. It was like a predator, alive, moving, consuming. And in that moment, I realized I had absolutely no control. Smoke blinded me, flames roared, the smoke alarms were going off. My heart raced like I wanted to escape out of my chest. I ran to the front door, opened it up, thinking that some of the smoke could go out the front door, screaming for help at 7 o'clock at night, screaming for my cats to come to the door, for anything that would save them. I traced my steps through the house and I found my phone. So I called 911. The connection faltered. The dispatcher didn't understand. The call was disconnected. My panic surged. But survival isn't just fear, it's focus. I knew I had to keep moving. I called 911 again. She said they had received my call. A neighbor started appearing like guardian angels. One told me to move my car out of the garage or I would lose that too. A pizza delivery guy ran around looking for fire extinguishers. A cat appeared at the front door and I opened it up to grab it. Simba. I put him in my car and ran back to the house. By this time the police had arrived. Through the smoke and the chaos, a cat tried to slip out through a crack in the window I had left open because of my hot flashes. The police struggled to cut through the screen, but Felix started away. Instinctively, I rushed to the front door, wanting to go back inside to grab him, when an officer grabbed my arm and yanked me back, yelling for me to stay out. But that same officer went into the house and retrieved Felix. And when he lifted Felix's limp, soot-covered body into my arms, it looked like he was gone. But he wasn't. He was breathing heavily, he was soot-streaked, but alive. And in that moment, Felix surrendered to be rescued. His anxiety and nervousness momentarily giving way to trust, knowing that he wanted to survive. Time stretched like taffy. The fire truck still hadn't arrived. Minutes felt like hours. I was holding Felix in my arms, barely breathing, and whispered promises to him I wasn't sure I could keep. My hands burned, my mind raced, my body shook uncontrollably. Shock wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. Yet, I forced clarity. I would later learn of the dispatch error and how my local fire department was never alerted to my call. It took them nearly 20 minutes to get my house, and I lived less than 5 minutes away. A neighbor caught Buckeye walking the sidewalks of the neighborhood and brought him back to me. My son arrived while I was still in the ambulance. I reassured him that I was okay and asked him to check on the pets in the car. The paramedics had me stay in there in the ambulance to warm up and recover from shock. But my mind was elsewhere. I wanted to be back at the house, near my pets, hoping that another cat might still be rescued. There were still 5 in the house. So when my daughter called me as she was driving home from work, I felt the shock start to ease and a sense of focus return, because I needed to be calm for her. In a moment of wanting to protect her, I didn't tell her about the house being on fire. I just told my son. She learned it from a video that a friend sent her while she was at work. A neighbor had taken a video of the fire and posted it on social media. So my daughter immediately went to her boss and said, "Can I leave? My house is on fire." So of course her boss was like, "Yes, go." So after I hung up with my daughter, I turned to the paramedics and told them, "I feel better." They chuckled, saying shock symptoms don't disappear that quickly. I insisted. I said, put the cuff back on me. I know I feel better. We sat in silence as the machine measured my vitals. And sure enough, my blood pressure and my heart rate were back to normal. They looked at me stunned. I told them, listen, a mother's instinct is to protect her child. I had to calm myself first so I could calm her down. Walking back to the house from the ambulance, I remember watching a bald firefighter peel off his helmet as he walked away from the flames. And it felt like I was watching a scene from a movie. Sweat poured off of his head despite the freezing December air. It was such a raw, human moment. I was acutely aware that my house fire wasn't just terrifying me, it was traumatizing everyone around me as well. When my daughter arrived, I saw the worry all across her face. She immediately scanned me from head to toe, making sure I was really okay and that I wasn't lying, even though she knows I would never lie to her. But at that moment, I had to tell her the hardest part, that 5 of our cats had died. Neighbors wrapped us in blankets, they gave us water, they hugged us, and still the fire consumed everything in front of us. The home that had sheltered us, the memories we had built. That 20-minute drive home from work for my daughter became a traumatic memory for her, one she later processed in counseling using techniques like EMDR. In that drive home, she felt helpless and hopeless, and that experience haunted her. That night, the paramedics wanted to take me to the hospital, noticing the second-degree burns on my hands and warning me that I might start coughing up green or black mucus. But all I could think about was being back at the house near my pets and my kids. Remarkably, in the days following the fire, I never coughed or cleared my throat, not once. After being in the house for as long as I did, my lungs seemed untouched. Watching the body cam footage later, I noticed that the officer who ran back into the house to rescue Felix coughed immediately afterward. That contrast was striking and somehow reinforced the raw, almost surreal nature of what I had survived. The majority of the house was gone, except for the studs. We lost 5 of our precious cats, material things reduced to ash. But the true treasures, the love, the resilience, the family we chose, remained. Slowly, healing began. Felix, Simba, and Buckeye recovered. The kids adapted. We recreated our Christmas in a hotel room, finding joy even in loss. And I realized the fire wasn't just destruction. It was cleansing, transformation, a hard reset we hadn't asked for but desperately needed. The house had held us safe, yes, but it had also anchored us to old fears and old trauma. That fire burned away what we no longer needed. A phoenix rises from the ashes for a reason. And sometimes your world must be destroyed so you can rise anew. And rise we shall. So even in the midst of loss and shock, the outpouring of donations and support kept us going. The spirit of community, the friends and neighbors, and strangers who stepped up, kept our souls alive. Knowing I would one day give back when I could gave me focus and a sense of purpose amidst the chaos. Later, we learned that the fire had started in the dishwasher, an electrical fire. The dishwasher hadn't been running. I had bought that dishwasher during the pandemic when the world shut down, so did my old dishwasher. Well, the wires weren't connected properly, and over time they sparked a fire. I had no idea that electrical fires were even a thing. Since then, I've learned so much, yet the more I know, the more I have to balance my fear, because everything can be a fire hazard. Thankfully, I have home insurance, which has provided for our living arrangements and will support the rebuild of the house. So even amid loss and chaos, the safety net has allowed me to focus on healing and rebuilding without the crushing weight of uncertainty. Well, this story is more than fire. It's about courage, focus, and the unexpected grace of community. It's about surviving chaos, holding on to what matters, and trusting that the flames can lead to clarity. If this story resonates, remember, even when your world is burning, even when fear and loss feel absolute, love, resilience, and hope are still standing, waiting for you to rise.